Quick disclaimer, no one involved in this podcast is an investigative journalist. We only read, watch, and listen to whatever we can to satisfy our curiosity and come back to talk about it. Do not take this as investigative journalism. This is simply our own rabbit holes. Hello, friends, and get ready. We're going to talk about the docs, the crimes, and all the people involved. This is Crime and Chill. Hey guys, I'm Victoria, and that is all you'll be hearing from now on. Rachel has decided to leave the podcast. If you don't follow us on social media, you didn't know that. I guess I don't say us anymore, I say me. No weird things or anything like that. She's just gonna go be a mom with her full-time job. And that's cool. She'll be back at some point to do some episodes. So, for right now, what we're doing is we're just gonna have kind of like a revolving door of co-hosts, because I think that'll be fun, and I also feel like I just said door weird, but it's fine. So, today, we have my husband Clay back. Say hi, honey.
Hi, everybody.
So, how are you today?
I'm good.
That's good.
It's been a good day.
Been a good day?
Yeah.
Today, first we're going to do some crime news, because we gotta always do the crime news. And obviously, it has been a while since we recorded an episode, or since I recorded an episode. I'm going to keep slipping up and saying we.
Technically, right now, it's we. So.
Yeah. So, I don't recall what the last crime news was. It would have been smart for me to listen, but I don't remember. Just going off of what I know I was going to talk about in one of them, I don't remember. So, like I said, obviously it's been a while since we recorded an episode, so I want to talk about something that took place here, and the trial and everything happened back in May, so it's kind of old news. But, it's important news. The winner of Food Network's Worst Cooks in America, Ariel Robinson, was found guilty of homicide by child abuse after less than 2 hours of jury deliberations. Ariel and her husband, Austin Robinson, were arrested and charged with the death of their foster daughter, 3-year-old Victoria Torrey Smith, on January 19th, 2021. Austin pled guilty to aiding and abetting homicide by child abuse. While Ariel chose to go to trial, Austin testified against his wife and in brutal detail talked about the day Torrey was killed. I won't go into much detail about what happened that day. Just know that Torrey was severely abused up to that point. Torrey's cause of death was multiple blunt force trauma and internal bleeding. Again, this was a 3-year-old. And Austin testified that the day of her death, he could hear the beating going on for over an hour even though he was outside. And he did nothing to stop it, hence aiding and abetting. Because aiding and abetting kind of gets twisted. Sometimes people think aiding and abetting means like hiding somebody. No, aiding and abetting means you did nothing to stop it. Ariel was sentenced to life in prison, and Austin was sentenced to 20 years with credit for time served, which at the time was over 500 days. So he made a plea deal, basically, because he was like, he knew they were fucked. Yeah, you got any thoughts on that?
Don't beat your kids. That's wrong.
She was a beautiful little girl.
Well, it doesn't matter.
I know it doesn't matter, but she was a beautiful little girl.
Well, people don't beat your kids. If you don't want a kid that bad, you can give them up for adoption or something. There's other ways.
Again, though, this was not their biological child. This was a foster child that was placed into their care by the state.
They just need
so they chose to have a child brought into their home in a different way.
They should just be executed then. Okay. Firing squad. There we go. Done. Problem solved.
Problem solved?
Yep. And better screening for foster parents, obviously.
So from my understanding, there was nothing on their record or anything that, showed that was an issue.
I think you should.
So if there's nothing in your background, there's nothing pointing to that. If there's no prior children in your home, like their own children, and I don't know if they'd had their own children or not, and they saw no signs of abuse, in this case, from my understanding, there was nothing the foster system could have done.
Yes, but I feel like there should be a better screening process for foster parents anyway, but I think you should be able to pass the psychological exam.
I agree.
Stuff like that, because,
they need to put them in a room with screaming children and see how they react.
No, that's not enough. They would just hide it for that day. You need an actual psychological exam if you want to foster a child. I'm sorry. That's how it should be. Or else you get stories like this.
And
which
all
happens
too often. That's right. All too often we hear about children in the foster care system getting killed. And it's horrible. That's the crime news for today. Like I said, it's old news. It happened back in May. The actual murder took place in January of last year. But I really wanted to talk about it because that was something I was heavily following. Because I was like, if they don't convict this bitch, I swear to God.
Fun crime news. Alright. Dead children. That's a good start.
So, are you ready for the actual case taking place today where there is no children being killed?
That's nice.
But we do talk about what happened to said person in their childhood. So there's a little bit of graphic. So here's your trigger warning of there is going to be mention of abuse. I feel like we have a trigger warning on every episode. It's kind of like you know what you're getting into when you listen to crime.
I was about to say, isn't listening to a crime news podcast kind of a trigger warning?
It is. I think it is. But also, I'm going to be fair and give you a thing. So today, we're going to be talking about Glen Rogers. Glen Rogers is currently 59, and he is sitting on a Florida prison on death row where he has sat for the last 23 years.
Oh, Florida, this is going to be fun.
He's just sitting in prison in Florida.
Oh. Doesn't that mean that's where he's convicted? Or what
That's where he was crimes that took place over several states.
Okay. So the most recent one was in Florida. Isn't that how it works or something like that?
We'll get into it.
Okay. Sorry. Still Florida fun.
So this is going to be one of those cases where you listen to everything I have to tell you about it, starting from the beginning of his life and going on, that you're going to be like, why the fuck did no one step in?
Am I allowed to ask questions?
Yes, you are allowed to ask questions.
I'll just raise my hand.
Listen, because listen guys, I've listened to y'all. You guys liked him on the McStay family episode. That's why he's back right now. I think that you guys liked that I had a non-crimey person asking all the questions that I think a lot of people had.
I don't think it had anything to do with me, but okay.
So, and I think that this is one of those cases where the nurture versus nature argument is very much can be made. So first of all, I'm going to talk about a documentary about him because I need to talk shit about this documentary. So it was called My Brother the Serial Killer, and Glen's brother Clay and one of his sisters was involved.
Hey.
And it was laughable. It was the most cheesy and scripted thing you've ever watched in your life.
They all scripted?
So here's the thing. If you're talking from experience and you're talking about a family member and you're talking about what happened in your childhood with this family member, it should not sound like you're reading off a script. It shouldn't. There's no reason for it to.
Well, usually people just use like interviews from what I've seen from you, what you watch.
Right, but that wasn't the case with this one. And I'm just going to explain why this is so fucking cringy. So, first of all, there was a scene in the documentary where Glen's brother is explaining something about with the trunk of a car. So he opens the trunk of a car with the camera is in the trunk, full up his nose shot. Like, we can see all the nose hairs and everything. It's just the most dramatic thing, and he just stands there holding the trunk open, talking about how his brother showed him a body in the trunk. It is the most stupid scene I've ever seen in a documentary, honestly. Like, I've seen some bullshit documentaries, and I know this was made in 2012. I don't care. It was bullshit. Anyway, let's talk about Mr. Rogers here.
Okay.
And not good Mr. Rogers. We're talking about Glen Rogers, and he's a fucker. Glen was the sixth of 7 children. His parents were Edna and Claude Rogers. So he obviously, there's plenty of siblings. There's 7 total kids in this family. But there's only one other in the family that I can tell that had anything to do quite as serious as much as Glen has done, as far as crime involved. So, when Glen was an infant, apparently he would, like, rock back and forth and bang his head against the wall, but, like, wouldn't react to it at all. Now, this is semi-normal. This is something that a lot of kids do, and it's mostly, like, a sensory-seeking thing. But both Edna and Claude were extremely abusive. Claude would beat the children, and Edna would hold Glen's head underwater until he couldn't breathe when he was just as little as, like, 3.
So, question.
Yeah.
So, the mother, religious nut job?
Not that I've seen, no.
A lot of religious nut job parents use the water thing because they think it's cleansing cycles.
Also, at the age from like 1 to 3 is where we're at right now. Glen slapped Glen so hard that it knocked him out.
When he was 1?
In the 1 to 3 range. He also was kept in restraints, and he kept like breaking free of these restraints. There's no real reason to say as to why he was kept in the restraints, because it is possible that he could have been kept in restraints for his own safety. This was back in the 60s, okay? That's another thing to keep in mind, is this is the 60s. But when he got out of the restraints and he was a toddler, he was eating the paint off the walls. Again, this is the 60s. At that point in time, there were still homes with lead-based paint. So he was eating
pretty much all of them.
Lead-based paint off the walls. Fine. We know now, in 2022, how completely and utterly dangerous lead paint is. You know, they figured it out, but not before it did a shit ton of harm. Also, this is the other thing of why I think they were so horrible to Glen. Back in the day, okay, if you're not a woman, you might not know all the history that goes into women's reproductive rights and things like that. Back in the day, you and your husband had to go before a judge to ask to get your tubes tied. Did not matter how many children you had, didn't matter anything. If that judge deemed that, no, you don't need your tubes tied, you're still good, or you don't need a hysterectomy, you're still good, you're not going to get it. So, when Edna and Claude went in front of a judge to seek the right to be done having children, the judge said no. know.
Okay.
So I think that's why it was part of the reason it was particularly worse. He wasn't wanted.
I would guess that's why it's not done now. Parents don't want a child, they're going to treat it badly if they have one.
So back into Glen's childhood, we kind of got off a little bit there, but I just wanted to talk about that. This is a little bit of, I'm not sure how factual it is. Edna may have tried to drive her car off a cliff with the kids in it.
With herself in it?
Yeah, herself and the kids.
Well, how do you try to? You see the
I'm not really sure. Again, this is something that it's kind of bits and pieces of the story is kind of coming from different people, so it's very hard to figure out what's facts and what's not. So I'm going with something happened involving a car with Edna, but I don't know to what extent. So we just had A+ parenting going on in the Rogers household.
Oh, yeah,
I mean, great.
Great parents.
So again, we talked about like him eating all the paint and stuff. So that comes with long-term effects and stuff. And obviously eating it at that young age, Glen's brain was nowhere near developed. So you can go ahead and assume that eating the lead-based paint, being knocked out by his mother, being that young, that had a lot to do with what happens later. So every kid is different, obviously. But Glen wet the bed until he was 12 years old. That is something that normally stops anywhere from like 4 to 6.
Yeah.
Sometimes younger, depending on the kid, because some kids are really great at potty training, some aren't.
Abused kids, actually, that's a common problem.
Yeah.
Apparently.
When there's abuse in the situation, it does last longer.
Not sure why. It's interesting.
So when he was 12 is the year that Glen got addicted to drugs, and him and his brother Clay started robbing houses. And he wasn't caught. They were not caught with robbing houses until they robbed about over 200 houses at that point.
Nice.
And then after that, because of his age, he was sent to a reform school. We also know that at 13, Glen tried to kill himself by taking 25 Motrin tablets.
Motrin?
Motrin.
Which one's that?
Motrin is...
Wasn't that like a Tylenol type?
Yes.
Like, okay. Just making sure I had the right thing. Do they even make that anymore?
Yes, they still make Motrin.
But I would like to say that's pretty impressive to rob over 200 houses as kids and not get caught.
So it's like petty things.
Doesn't matter. It's still impressive.
So from my understanding, again, this is coming from the documentary.
Don't steal. Sorry. Wrong message. It's impressive, but don't do it.
Thank you. There's your PSA. Apparently, according to the documentary and what his brother said, is that one of them would distract the person that was outside while the other one snuck in and stole stuff. Solid planning, but
It's a good plan.
Don't rob people. Don't burglarize people. Don't steal things that do not belong to you.
I'm sorry. You're a girl, so you're not going to understand this. I mean, not to this extent, obviously. Every single boy, definitely if there's brothers, steal some when they're kids. Me and my brother did it at the convenience store all the time. Not gonna say which one. Not to that extent, but it actually is pretty normal for boy siblings to just steal.
Why?
I don't know, but it's very common.
Are you saying it's common because that's your experience, or do you know
because
actually?
That's what boys did. I don't know why. I'm sure there's some psychological reason, but I don't know why. People can vouch. Boys, they would steal stuff when they're little kids.
The most of the demographic that listens to this is male. So if you are a male and you have a brother, older or younger, I want to know, did you guys steal things together, separately? Somebody, I want to know. Just, you could private message my page of the podcast, the Instagram, the Facebook, whatever.
Unless you disagree with me, don't say anything. I don't want to be wrong in this, but from my experience and what I've heard,
he's like, listen, y'all, marriage is hard. I need to be right in one thing.
Just from what I've gathered over my lifetime, that is common amongst boys. It's nothing bad. I'm not talking about they snuck into houses and stole stuff. That no, not many kids do that. I'm just saying.
So what did you and your brother steal?
Oh, Yu-Gi-Oh cards.
Yu-Gi-Oh cards?
Yeah.
Weren't they really, really cheap back in the day?
We were poor.
Sorry.
I would distract, I'd make a noise in the store, and he'd swipe real quick, couple.
But why Yu-Gi-Oh cards? Can I ask?
I'm a nerd. We were nerds. What do you expect?
Okay, so anyway, to Mr. Glen Rogers.
Sorry.
I mean, that was good. I like that. So Glen was diagnosed at age 13 to 14 is when this condition started manifesting itself, called porphyria. I'm not saying that correctly at all.
What?
Porphyria.
What is that?
Porphyria.
I'd have to see it.
It's right here if you want to see.
No, I think you said it right.
Porphyria.
Or something like that.
Something.
That's what it looks like.
Anyway, this is a blood disorder that causes red, blotchy like skin when the person's like really stressed out or really angry. It also causes and comes with other mental illnesses and seizures and things that make you paranoid. There's a lot that goes with it. It's very interesting. If you are into research like I am, that's a rabbit hole. Because it's also called Mad King George disease. because King George had it. And like I said, when you get mad or stressed, you're red and blotchy. Not like, if you get really worked up, people get red. Like, this is like, it looks like you're having a reaction.
So dad.
No.
All the time.
No. But this is more often than not, this order is genetic. So he probably got it from somewhere. Who knows? So we're gonna start kind of like running through this more because there's a lot. So we're gonna run through some of the stuff that led up to what we get to. Also, I forgot to mention this earlier. Please keep in mind Glen's mother is a redhead.
Hint, 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 hint.
So Glen met and later married a, quote, sex worker named Debbie who was only 13. I'm going to go on a tangent. If she is 13 years old, she is not a sex worker. She cannot be a sex worker. At age 13, she could not consent. Fuck you. Stop calling underage women that are abused sex workers. Anyway, he was 15. She was 13. Not long after he first met Debbie, that is when Glen got his first big boy charge. So he obviously said he'd been in trouble with the law before, but it was all juvenile offenses. Kind of slap on the wrist. He got his first big boy charge of like aggravated menacing.
Aggravated menacing?
Aggravated menacing.
What in the world is that? Sorry, it just sounds like going up to somebody and poking them repeatedly and aggravating them.
No, that is not it. It's basically threatening somebody. They really believe you are about to cause them physical harm.
I thought that was already a thing. Like,
this is back in the day. We're in the 60s, 70s at this point.
Okay, true. Could just had a weird name for it.
And then he got expelled from the reform school for all Fs at age 16. Then Glen's just doing his thing. He wasn't really doing much of anything other than, being a petty criminal. Debbie, who we just talked about a minute ago, she got pregnant by another guy. And when Glen was 18, Debbie had the baby and was at the hospital, and they weren't going to allow her to leave because she had nowhere to go with the baby. And again, if he was 15 and she was 13 when they met, and he's 18, that puts her at 16. So I don't know, again, back in the day, this is the 70s, who knows of what the rules were. So anyway, Glen went and got her, they got married, and he ended up adopting the child. And then Glen and Debbie had a second child together. We're going to fast forward a couple years.
Okay.
Glen is now 20 years old, and he thought Debbie was cheating on him. And he was following her, and he saw her pick up another man in her truck. Don't know why. Don't know what was going on there. She just picked somebody up. That does not mean she was doing anything. That just means you picked a man up. You can have male friends. I have male friends that there is nothing there. Regardless of what happened, it does not excuse the next thing that's about to happen. When she returned home, this man beat the living fuck out of her. He took his steel-toe boots and kicked her in the vagina.
Jesus.
So hard and so much that it caused such serious damage she had to have reconstructive surgery on her vagina.
Okay.
No matter what was happening with the man in that truck, that does not give you the right to do any of that.
Jesus, just shoot her. Sorry, but
Take that back.
That'd be better.
I guess, but still, you shouldn't kill nobody.
No,
you shouldn't beat nobody.
But God, why would you do all that?
Because he's a fucking psycho piece of shit. So they got divorced after that. Go Debbie. Fuck yeah. Fuck that man. We don't fucking like him. Sometime between that is when, and I think this is what set that off, is sometime during that his father suffered a stroke that left him like completely bedridden, and Glen off and took care of him and stuff, right? His mom left and was going out to bars seeking outside companionship. And Glen saw his mother in a bar with another man and beat that man with a baseball bat.
But not the mom.
No, so I think that might be partially what went off here.
That's weird. So in one situation he beats the other man, in the other situation he beats the cheater.
Supposed cheater. Anyway, so he later got married again, had another kid, and moved to LA. And that person got married, with that person he got married in 1982, and they split by 1985. That didn't last long.
No, probably figured out he was a psycho.
Alright, are you ready for the episode of stupid of this story?
Sure, hit me with it.
In 1986, Glen went to the hospital after doing a fuck ton of drugs and injecting himself with Budweiser.
Does that do anything?
I don't know. But why would you inject yourself with anything? First of all, let's start there.
Yeah, I know that, but I'm just saying.
But of all things, Budweiser? I mean, I get like the whole blood alcohol level thing. I don't think that's how it works. I don't know, but that's the biggest.
I'm sure it might do something, but I feel like it could also harm you.
I feel like that really just shows his intelligence, which is why he was probably at the hospital. It probably did cause harm. And during this time, he admitted to using cocaine heavily. Here is a little tidbit for you. I'm going to have everything linked, obviously, so you guys can see where I'm getting this information from. When he went into the hospital evaluated his mental condition. This is a quote from what it says. Glen is a mentally ill person subject to hospitalization by court order. He represents a risk of physical harm to himself as manifested by evidence of threats or attempts of suicide. But you all let him leave.
I don't think that was a thing back then where you could make them stay.
The 72 hour?
Yeah. I don't think that was a thing back then. It could have been.
Also, not long after that, the hospitalization happened. Glen's father died.
Boo-hoo.
Boo-hoo. We're going to speed past some stuff, and we're going to just talk about a bunch of shit. So first of all, Glen gets charged with 3 times for public intoxication and once for drunk driving after his father dies. Glen was dating a woman by the name of Joyce Author, and him and his, reportedly, again, I don't know solid this is the truth. I was not there. I don't think there's a report. I don't know. But reportedly, Glen and his brother Clay sexually abused her after getting her very, very drunk, and then Glen stole all her money and left town. Here's another fun tidbit. Glen worked for the circus for like 3 years, so he was traveling around the country with the circus.
Doing what? Was that? Or is it just like
I don't know. I just know he worked for the circus. Huh. So, like I said, he was in LA, right? So...
You didn't, but okay.
I did. I said he moved to LA when he got married. Again, second time. Oh. He was in LA. And then with all the traveling and stuff, he went back to LA. And he was working in LA with a different ID. We'll get into that in a minute. But he was known to work for and party with Nicole Brown Simpson. So, it's also reports that he's the one that killed her and Ron Goldman. There's multiple things that have come out supposedly linking him to it, but it's mostly fingerprints inside the house. And again, if he was working inside the house, if he did work for her, his fingerprints are going to be inside the house. That does not mean that he did it. I have another theory about what happened.
Oh, everybody knows OJ did it.
I don't think so. We're not talking about that right now.
You're right.
But as far as 2020, legally nothing has come of those allegations because they can't prove it. But also, the other reason of why I'm like, nah, he didn't fucking do it, Glen only killed redheads. Does it fit the timeline of his murders? Yes, because Nicole Brown Simpson was killed in 1994.
Was she blonde, though?
She was blonde. She was killed in 1994, and he started killing in 1993. The first murder that he is connected to was in 1993.
Okay, so he murders.
So the first murder is suspected, but he is linked to it, is Mark Peters, the ID that he was using, and alias he was going by. So he was killed in 1993. His remains were recovered in 1994 in a cabin belonging to the Rogers family. Mark Peters had taken Glen in. He had taken care of him. He allowed him to stay in his home. And then in October of 1993 is when Mark Peters was reported missing along with his car and several valuable personal items. All that. Rogers was reported to have been disappeared as well. So what happened with that, according to the documentary, are you ready? Again, the documentary that his brother is speaking to us. According to his brother, he went to this cabin. And when he went to this cabin, he was doing work, doing whatever, and he found the body. I think he said he saw the hand, and that's when he realized. I think it was like weeks before he reported to police anything. But he had just gotten out of prison himself. He was like, fuck, they're gonna think I did it.
That's fair to think, but rational brain should still say, tell somebody.
Right.
Could they find it after
Eventually, he did tell the police. The police did come up there and search. They did identify Mark Peters. We're back to Glen now. He was in Florida at points, so it's just a crazy timeline and everything. But in 1993, in Florida, is when he got into a fist fight with a coworker. The manager called police, but Glen left. A couple months later, Glen is found by a policeman covered in bruises and blood, and he claimed that he was assaulted by his boss with a metal pipe who stole his wallet, and his boss was charged with battery for that.
Hold on.
Yes.
So, was he not in any systems because of the other dude being found killed?
So, at the time when they're, looking, when these two things just happened was 1993. That body was not discovered until 94.
Okay, so all this happened before it was discovered.
Before the body was discovered.
Okay.
So, he has 3 convictions, 3 more suspected, and he claims over 70 murders.
When was he murdered?
So his span of crimes that we know, is 93 to 95. There are things that he has taken credit for, but there's no proof of it. There are things that he could just be popping off at the mouth. There was a 16-year-old that went missing at the time, during one of these times, that was found dead after leaving a biker bar. Bars are things that Rogers is known to frequent. So, again, supposedly one of the girls he pimped by the name of Carrie Gaskins was found dead by her daughter. Carrie was a redhead. He raped and murdered a prostitute by the name of, quote, Mary. We don't know who she actually is. We know nothing about her. Also, in 1993, Glen's first wife, Debbie, did die from diabetic complications involving cocaine use. If you have health conditions, don't do drugs. It makes shit go fucking crazy.
Don't do drugs. It's bad.
So, then we're going to jump to 1995. In June of 1995, he was arrested. Glen Rogers was arrested for assault with a deadly weapon in Los Angeles, California, and he served 36 days in prison. 36 days for assault with a deadly weapon. September of 95, he was arrested again for beating his girlfriend, but because he was still on probation for the assault with a deadly weapon, he should have received 2.5 years for what happened. But the judge was unaware of the previous sentence, and he was released on the time served of 2 days.
How are you not aware of it?
It was the 90s, so I don't know how much was connected. So in September of 1995, Sandra Gallagher, who was 33-year-old mother of 3, met Rogers at a bar. The next day, her strangled and badly burned corpse was found near Glen's apartment. They alleged that after he murdered her, he moved to Mississippi, Louisiana, and Florida and killed a woman in each state. So this is the conviction that he has in California, because on June 22nd, 1999, he was convicted of murdering her, and on July 16th of 99, the state of California sentenced him to death. We then have Linda Price. Linda Price met Glen at a beer tent at a state fair. They briefly shared an apartment together in Mississippi. On Halloween 1995, Linda did not answer her door. They got in. Glen was gone. She was dead in her bathtub. 30s, red hair. So we're at September of 95, October of 95, November of 95. Tina Marie Cribbs in Tampa, Florida was seen leaving a bar with Glen. See, they're all meeting at bars. Glen bought drinks and stuff for her and her friends. He later asked her for a ride. 2 days later, a member of the cleaning staff of a hotel discovered her body in a bathtub. She had been stabbed in the chest and butt.
In the butt?
In the butt.
That's a weird one.
And the clerk at the motel had said that Glen had come in a few days before the murder. And then later on that November 5th, he paid for an extra night and asked that his room not be cleaned. They told them the car that he put his stuff in, everything, fingerprints, blah, blah, blah. On November 13th, he was arrested in Kentucky driving Tina's car, which he said was lent to him, and he also claimed that she was alive when he left. So on July 11th, 1997, he was convicted and sentenced to death for her murder. Not long after this, on November 9th, 1995, in Louisiana, a known acquaintance of his, Andy Giles Sutton, she was found stabbed to death on a punctured waterbed in her apartment. So what happened, according to the documentary, what happened that Rogers was arrested, okay? Because mind you, they're looking for him. Like, after all of these things, they are looking for him because everybody knows he was the last one with these women. So he was going to see a family member after the last murder of Andy Sutton, and family member is who alerted police. They found out somehow that he was being looked for. This resulted in a high-speed chase. So when he was arrested in November of 1995, before anything else happened, when the police interviewed him, and they told him that they were looking at him for the murder of 5, okay? Before saying anything about wanting an attorney and a lawyer, rule number 1, people, if the police are talking to you, whether you did it or not, ask for a lawyer. He was completely indifferent to the murders, just did not give a shit, and he admitted to 70 murders. He was also, in 1996, before trials and everything, he was diagnosed with chronic psychotic disturbance, and also showed him as having brain damage, and his IQ was only 76, which 70, this is not the PC term anymore, but for the time, this is what it says. 70 was the point of retardation on the IQ test. So he's 6 points above that. He was convicted of the murders. That all happened. But he was the first convicted killer to be extradited from one state to another after being sentenced to death row to stand trial for another murder.
What's the point of that?
Justice for the families.
Okay, sorry. Stupid question.
I mean, no, it's not, because here's the thing. We have talked about other things before of when they make deals and there's multiple murders in place. There's multiple murders that happened, okay? And they say there's, in this case, we're talking about 70 plus, supposedly. But let's just go down to 6. If they say, we'll drop these 3 if you plead to these 3, that's kind of an iffy point for some people, because yes, you're getting the conviction. Yes, you're getting him to admit that he killed those 3 people, but then you have these other 3 people over here and their families. I have a hard time with that. I understand why they do it. It makes sense, but I don't like it.
I can get why people would be upset. Me personally, I don't think I would be bothered by it. If it was to me or something, I don't think I would be that much bothered, because I would already know.
Right.
But I can see how people...
And there was, I think it was last year, there was one of the victims' mothers. I think it was Tina's mom. I'm unsure. I don't remember. I'd have to go find every single article again, and I don't remember. But I will put them in sources because I have them bookmarked. I just don't feel like going through everything right now. One of the victims' mother was pushing and wanting to know why the fuck he is just just been sitting on death row for 23 years. And why the fuck he's still alive.
I agree with that on a lot of cases.
Like I said, he's been sitting on death row for 22, 23 years.
It's stupid. This is a waste of taxpayers' dollars.
His also, I forgot to mention, his other names that he was known by, like the murderer names, you know. Cross Country Killer and the Casanova Killer, if you were curious. And then also, let's go through his other convictions real quick. So his other convictions that we know of, we have Florida where it's first degree murder, armed robbery, and grand theft auto. California is first degree murder with special circumstances. If there's first degree murder with special circumstances, that means that there are factors that require or allow for more severe punishment than what normally would happen. More often than not, you're going to get sentenced to like life. In this case, we know he was sentenced to death, special circumstances, and he was convicted of arson in California, just so you know. That is the story of Glen Rogers. Thoughts, comments, questions?
I don't know if it's going to be a popular opinion.
Go ahead.
If you're mad at somebody else and you use them as other people as a, what's the word I'm looking for? Substitute, I guess. I don't understand. Just kill the original person that caused you a problem. Like, definitely someone abused you and made you have these issues. I don't understand. Just kill the person that did that.
I mean, don't kill anybody.
I'm sorry, you can kill an abuser. I don't care. Unpopular opinion. I don't know.
Also, this is something I forgot to mention during the actual, like, what I was talking about. Reportedly, after one of the murders, I don't remember exactly which one, Glenn called his mom and left a message on her machine, and you could hear, like, spanking in the background, and him saying, I punished her, mommy, like you punished me, blah, 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 blah. Yeah. So he was also taunting his mother in an aspect.
She deserved that, but I'm sorry, I don't understand using substitutes. If you're going to kill an abuser, just kill the abuser.
I mean, yeah.
It's better than innocent people dying.
I agree. I do agree with that statement. I just don't think we should kill anybody.
We differ.
Yeah. I'm just like, let's not kill anybody. And you're like, well, if they deserve it. So, like I said, this was going to be a very big argument of the nature over nurture. Was this nature or was this the nurture?
I don't think there's really an argument on this one.
You don't think, like, it could have just, you're full blown on because of what happened as a child. That's why he turned out that way.
Well, obviously.
No other. I'm just saying that's why I said this argument comes into play here.
I don't feel like the argument's
because
even there.
If you took all that away, would he still be the same person?
I doubt it. Most people are not just wired like that. There are a few instances where that happens, but usually there's also something else that contributes to it.
Well,
there's no killing gene. It's not a thing. I'm sorry. I don't agree with the nature thing at all.
So okay, we're kind of going off. So what about the cases where nothing bad happened to them in their childhood? Everything was fine. But they're even saying, those people that murdered them, saying, nothing happened to me.
I said there are some cases where people's wiring is just
so it's
up.
Just, does that go into nature?
I guess, technically, I just don't. Those are just people that something is wrong in their wiring. There's no, I say wiring, but brain. There's just something that wasn't right in that. That is nature, I guess. But most of the time, that's not the case. Majority of the time. That's very rare.
So, if we took out the abuse, but we left in the lead poisoning and his other condition that caused mental health problems.
I don't think he'd still kill.
You don't think he would still kill?
No. The fact of them all being redheads proves it right there.
I agree. I think that it does have a lot to do with that. But I'm not saying that. But we also know he was a criminal otherwise.
And also, multiple of them were in water.
No, they were just found in the bathtub. There's not statements that there was water. They were found stabbed.
Doesn't
or
matter.
strangled.
Still a representation for water. One was on a waterbed as well.
Yeah.
Which might have just triggered him.
That was the very last murder that he convicted.
For all we know, those ones in the tubs, something about the tub and water triggered him. Because, I mean, it was shown that he was, he was almost drowned in water multiple times. So that could have been a trigger for it. Yeah,
because triggers are very, very real.
Yeah.
So you asked earlier about like his mom and stuff. There's literally no information about his mother that I can find, which sucks because I would like to know more about her, solely because I want to know why the fuck she was such a fucking bitch.
I'm telling you, most times when they use water, abusive parents, when they use water, it's for religious reasons. They're usually a religious nut job.
So based on the other stuff, I don't see her as being a religious nut job. And we're not knocking religion. I'm Christian. We're not knocking religion. We're talking about the people that take it to extremes, just so everybody is aware.
No, we're talking about people that pervert religion to use it for harm.
There you go.
There's a difference. You can be religious and be a good person. There's no...
I've said before, your religion is not an excuse to hate. Your religion is not an excuse to kill. Your religion is not an excuse to do anything other than love other people and follow what you take the rules of your religion to be.
almost every single religion, major religion, has the same rules on that.
Yeah.
Pervert them, of course. Anybody can pervert anything. I can pervert the dictionary being some to hurt people. Anybody could do that.
Yeah. So, I think that's where we're going to leave it, because we don't really have... I don't have anything else about this case or really to be discussed other than, like I've already said, Rachel is out. It's just going to be me and some people coming in. Clay will be back, because he loves me.
Yes, I do.
So, obviously him coming back a second time is solely because he loves me. I
don't mind this. That's not, yeah.
So, like I said, I'll just be having other people coming in. I will probably be doing a couple solo episodes just to kind of see how it goes. See if if I enjoy doing those, and B, if you guys like them. If they're horrible, I'm not going to put them out at all and you'll never hear them. But
personally, I think opinion.
Okay.
But other people might agree. If you do solo ones, I think they should be shorter.
Yes.
And more just little stories.
Yeah, so that is kind of the plan.
I don't know if anybody would want to... No offense, I love listening to you talk. But I don't know if anybody would want to listen to just one person doing an entire thing.
I like how you added in that you love listening to me talk.
Yeah.
You're like, I'm not getting murdered tonight!
I'm just saying, though. I don't know if people disagree or not.
Again, this is something you could let me know on the social medias on Facebook,
That's
Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, and let me know if A, you want to hear solo episodes, and B, if you do you want kind of shorter ones? Because I do have ideas for some shorter episodes. It's going to be kind of different. We'll see what happens, but like I said, I do have 2 more fun co-hosts lined up that will be coming in. And the other thing that is changing is there will not be a new episode every week. That cannot happen with just me. It can't. There will be one twice a month, so every 2 weeks, barring like holidays and other things going on. If there's not going to be an episode, I'm going to let you guys know. Impossible to do an episode a week by myself. It's impossible. Writing, recording, editing. Granted, I was doing all the editing to begin with, so that's not changing. But trying to get all these cases ready and to go, and doing the research, and sometimes watching the things and talking about different things and all that, it's not possible for me to do as one person. So I'm sorry if that disappoints anybody that it will not be every week anymore. If I can figure out something where it can't be every week, sure, I'll put something out. But I don't think that's going to be possible. I am also back to working a normal job, so I still have plenty of time on my hands to do things, but I don't have as much time as I used to, because used to be I wasn't working at all, and then I was just picking up Rachel's kids, and now I'm just working a normal job. So yeah, that is what's going to happen right now. And if you have any questions, comments, concerns, you know where to get me.
Or just say hi.
Yeah, or just say hi. Now, I really need y'all to talk to me now. But thanks for tuning in this week. Make sure to like and subscribe if you're listening on YouTube. Make sure to like and rate us on all the platforms. Again, Podbean is still our most listened to, so do whatever you do on Podbean to get the ratings up on there.
Never heard of it.
I haven't either. Make sure to follow me on Instagram, Facebook, Tickety Talk, Twitter, and like I said, I'll be putting out a new episode every 2 weeks. I'm gonna keep messing up and saying we, even though it's just me. All right, well, thanks for tuning in this week, and I will see you guys in 2 weeks. Bye.